Hi, everyone. If we haven't met before, I'm Michaela Morris. I'm the VP of Programming for AMA Phoenix. Thank you so much for coming today to our webinar on Love the Process, learning more about project management. Here, Trevor, do we want to click to the next slide? Awesome. So we're doing some housekeeping updates on AMA Phoenix at the start of this, and then I'll hand over to Trevor, our speaker, in just a moment. So just wanted to share about some other upcoming events that we have going on. We're very grateful to be able to meet virtually for this one, but we have some in-person events coming up as well in the next couple months in case you'd like to join us at any of them. Our first one is Marketing the Moment, a panel on tourism, events, and destination marketing. It'll be in person at Four Peaks Brewery on Thursday, March 26th. We've got some awesome panelists and a great moderator, all in the world of destination event marketing, especially because I'm sure you all know that Phoenix is a hot spot for events during the spring, and then also how to handle the lack of events in the summer. So should be great. The price includes a buffet dinner and drinks. So we hope to see you there on March 26th. We also are doing a Connect at the Court pickleball networking event at Dink and Dime Pickle Park in Mesa. We're doing this one in partnership with Phoenix Ad Club. And the price for this one includes drop-in play for 2 hours. You get to learn from a pickleball pro, and it includes food and drink as well. So should be a lot of fun. Hope to see you there, especially for our pickleball lovers. And then our other event that's coming up is our annual Spectrum Awards. This year will be our 24th annual Spectrum Awards, and it'll be Tuesday, May 19th at the Arizona Biltmore. We are currently open for entry. So if you are interested in entering in your company, your agency, or client for an award, I can follow up in the link for the email for how to do that as well. But that's something that we're currently looking for. A couple other quick updates before we hop into the meat of the session. We are looking for volunteers for AMA Phoenix. We have a couple board positions open, our VP of Volunteers and our VP of Sponsorships. And then we have a couple committee positions open, our social media chair and a membership coordinator chair. So if you're interested in wanting to get more involved in AMA Phoenix, feel free to reach out to me or any of our board members, and we'd be happy to get you connected. I also don't want to forget to mention, we do have a job board with AMA Phoenix. So whether you are hiring or if you are looking for your next position, you can scan that QR code or go to the URL there to learn more about what jobs are available in the Phoenix market. And then last but not least, just wanted to push, if you would like to become a member today, you not only get discounted rates to events like this, but you also just get access to things like our job board, training resources into the AMA chapter nationally. So if you're interested in becoming a member, usually the membership can be sponsored by your job. So feel free to reach out to me or someone else on our team, and we'd be happy to get you connected to learn more about what that looks like. And without further ado, I am very excited to introduce Trevor Stasek, our presenter today. He is a well-known, well-renowned project manager who's worked in all different kinds of tools. And I'm very excited to have him be able to lead us in the session today. So Trevor, take it away.
Just want to thank Taylor as well for always being a great champion for our chapter. Thank you so much to everyone for taking a few minutes out of your day to connect with us to talk a little bit about marketing project management. We really want to love the process. With project management, it is such a cross-functional role in that it touches so many different things, and yet some people it's a little bit dubious. They're not sure, am I doing project management? How do I do it? How do I move forward with that? We're going to touch on that a little bit today. Who am I? And Michaela mentioned this a little bit a moment ago, but I've been doing marketing project management for about 10 years now, a little bit more than that, and I've run so many different kinds of projects. There's Waterfall and Agile, which we'll talk a little bit about today. You'll learn some more about that. Different budgets ranging from large ones to small ones, large teams to small ones. So I've really done a lot of different things. So I'm going to try to bring some of that experience to you today, just so we can touch on what exactly is marketing project management. We're going to set the stage, talk a little bit about the why. We want to really think about What does it take to go from being a firefighting team where you're just trying to tackle things as they're coming into you, as opposed to being, more strategic, more structured about it? And why is this so important? We'll talk about some of those core concepts that you learn in project management and how those can apply to marketing. There's practical application, how you can use these. We'll talk about how to make it stick, leveling up, and how to use this to manage up within your team and within your organization. And then we'll check in on empowerment and how you can really take this and move forward with it today. There's a huge challenge. We really need to understand, well, what what can project management in the marketing field do for you? Why would you do this? Well, it does so much for you. I'll just pause for about 10 seconds just to see if anyone wants to drop things into the chat. What types of things does project management help you with today? I will just wait for a second to see if we get any responses, and then I'll move forward. All right, well, while we're waiting to see if we get any responses, I'm going to just dive in here and say velocity and juggling. We know that things are being thrown at us all the time, so many different campaigns. Yep, we've got some awesome answers starting to flow in here. Accountability, be more organized. You want to manage expectations, focus, meeting deadlines, organization, utilization. That's a great one. Transparency, who's responsible for what tasks and who needs to be informed. Oh my gosh, these are so many great answers. And some of these you're going to see here as well. Too many revisions. If you're doing projects, if you're doing marketing, but you don't have project management, you may find yourself all of a sudden over your head with 20 different revisions coming in from a client or from your stakeholder. And you've got to help handle that. Project managers can do that. Collecting feedback, making sure, yep, everyone's on the same page, managing expectations when pivoting. You want to be able to collect feedback during the course of the project, as well as being able to do lessons learned afterwards. Speed of change, being able to adapt. Scope creep. Goes into that who's responsible for what task, who needs to be informed, but they're not accountable for them. Well, it's also important to be able to understand, how do we control the amount of work that's agreed to? Who's accountable for that work? What's the timeline, the budget for that? But we want to be able to control for that. Last minute requests. How often have we had someone send in a last minute request? We've got a brief we're already working on. We're a day before we're about to move forward, and then we get a request. Asset needs to be changed. Ad needs to be updated. Copy needs to be done. Oh my gosh, what do we do? Well, project management can help with pushing back on that, with helping to schedule and structure to streamline that. Things just go so crazy when we don't have project management controlling things. We are juggling too much at one time. Our teams are trying to do too much at one time. What we really want to do is just find that calm center, find that path forward. And that is what a good schedule, a good project plan, a good project manager can help you do. And if you are looking to do more project management, hopefully you'll be able to do more of this as well. The why matters. You want to be able to get rid of the firefighting, that cost of chaos. That's real. That's something that your teams that you are experiencing every day. And it's, if you've got a business, if your boss or manager is trying to run a business, this equates to money. This is your return on investment that's being impacted if you don't have some type of project management. It's not about more work. It's about working smarter. I'm going to read this word for word here because it's important, but then we'll talk about, break it down a little bit more. Marketing project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to drive contained efforts to meet or exceed project requirements to develop value within a marketing context. Now, what the heck does that mean? Well, let's break it down a little bit. You are taking skills, things that you know that are going to help structure you to be able to leverage different techniques. These are tools that we're going to talk about here today to drive contained efforts. A project is something with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's a defined level of work. It's contained. And you want to meet some type of goal to be able to provide value to your organization, to your team, to your client. And that's really what this is all about. Marketing project manager, who are you? Are you a strategic partner or are you a traffic director? That is a huge spectrum we're talking about here. And it's different levels of responsibility and different levels of accountability for each. If you're just a traffic director, oftentimes you will see traffic directors can be considered marketing project managers at some organizations. Sometimes they're a junior level role, or sometimes it's a role that's broken into several different components. But there's the people that maybe are taking care of your schedule. You're doing the scheduling, the communicating. You're getting teams aligned with their deliverables. You're helping document things. You might be helping with either meeting notes, making sure that the checklists are being completed. If you've got some creative briefs, you're helping to get that information documented. You're facilitating meetings. You're going in and you're making sure that people are having good conversations with one another, and you're organizing things. It goes more than beyond just that, though, because a marketing project manager can be so much more. They should be a strategic partner as well. They can help with vision and innovation, helping your leaders and your teams, your CMOs, figure out what is it we want to actually deliver? Why do we want to do it? Process governance, building out the structures that allow you to be able to do all of that traffic management. Quality coach. You have a valuable role as project manager in that you're cross-functional. You can see across many different teams. So you can also have the opportunity to see if something is impacting something else and there's going to be some quality issues. So you have a role to step in and say something when you see an issue there. Budget, resourcing, change management. This is that people aspect, people management aspect, making sure that people are being heard, that they're able to affect change, and risk management. Because if you don't know something's wrong, then you can't mitigate for it. And project manager is the person to help with that. We're going to dive into a couple of core concepts. I will pause after core concepts just to see if there are any questions, but I'm going to go through this right now here. And we'll touch on the two major mindsets. Some of you may have heard of Waterfall and Agile before. If not, the idea is with Waterfall, it's a sequential series of actions, tasks that need to be sequenced one before another before another. So if you're doing a campaign, well, really, you've got to figure out what the goals are before you can start to build a campaign. You need to have access to logos, have access to different images before you can start to build out those designs, those assets. There's a sequence to things that are being done. When you talk about Agile, it is another mindset, but it's also very important as we'll move forward. And it's an iterative approach. Rather than waiting until all of the work has been planned and completed to be able to put out some value, you're creating a little bit of value as you go. You're creating a little bit of change as you go. And this is very useful when you're inside of a project, maybe doing different elements. Sometimes you'll see, we'll touch on this again here later, a Waterfall, I call it, where you have a little bit of mix of Waterfall and Agile put together, and you're doing a little bit of both. So let's talk a little bit about those basic phases. And if anyone has any questions that they want to save up, they think of something, go ahead and drop it in the chat, and we'll touch on that when we get through this section here. Waterfall, so the 5 basic phases you see here, this is based off of the Project Management Institute's best practices. There's initiate, getting the project started, getting your work started, planning. This is where you're taking those initial goals, that initial authorization, and building out your timeline, figuring out what your resources are. What do we have available to us? Do we have the right tools? Do we have all the subscriptions we need? Has the update been done to Adobe Creative? Do we have all of the images, assets, logos that we need, interviews, things of that nature? Execution, that's getting the work done. Oftentimes, as a project manager, you might feel, hey, the execution part, maybe that's the easy part because you're so busy in getting things initiated and doing the planning. Execution is where your team is getting the work done. But really, it's not always the easiest because you are still there helping to facilitate, help the team remove obstacles so they can get their work done. You're there as a blocker. You're there as a facilitator. You're there, again, I mentioned the QC, that quality aspect. Monitor and control. that is the work on the project itself and the project team, as opposed to the work. In other words, you're checking in with your team. Hey, how are you guys doing? Are you guys okay? Do you have everything that you need? Do we have the right processes? It's the work on the work. And then closing, that's just wrapping things up, making sure that you understand what are the lessons learned? How can we improve in the future? Why don't fish like waterfalls? Because they hate dropping in unexpectedly. Let's adapt this a little bit to that marketing then. So requirements, you can think of that as your initiation. You're really gathering a lot of the things that you're starting. Design, well, you're planning things. You want to set things out. You're creating those concepts. Content calendars, you're getting things arranged, sequenced, so that when the work is really happening, it can get done by the team. Copy outlines, visual direction, all of these are great ways that you can help with planning your projects for your teams. Implementation, mentioned already, that's getting the work done to get those assets created. And then the go live, verification. Hey, you've got a new landing page. Let's go ahead and test that. Make sure that's working properly. Are all of the buttons working correctly? If you've got a video and you're putting that ad out there, is it appearing correctly? And then maintenance, doing the appropriate post-launch work just to continue to make adjustments as needed. Yeah, but you know what? This waterfall thing ain't working for me. You know, it's A, B, C, D. Well, my work just doesn't work like that. That's what you're thinking. We don't want to wait till the end, wait for feedback to come into the process. We got to get things done as we're going. It's too rigid. That's where Agile comes from, my friends. The Agile Marketing Manifesto was built based on the Agile processes initially created through IT and technology, but then was adapted. If you are ever bored and want to step into a new world and learn a little bit more about this in great detail, go to the agilemarketingmanifesto.org to get some of this. But these are the values. You're going to focus on customer value and business outcomes over activity. You're delivering value early and often over waiting for perfection. What does that mean? That means that rather than waiting until you finish a full campaign, maybe you're putting out some of the ads as you go. Waiting until you finish out all of the commercials or the videos or whatever the copy is. Well, there's some things that you might be able to put out as you go and delivering a little bit of value as you go. You want to learn through experiments. And I know you guys are great at this. A/B testing, great chance to just test and experiment, try to figure out, okay, what is the best way to market this? Cross-functional collaboration. Try not to stay siloed. Talk to your teams. If you are siloed physically, well, you can always reach out via email, via Zoom. There's so much technology that you don't have to let physical location stand in your way. Responding to change over following a static plan. Being Agile means making changes as you go. And there are different kinds of Agile that are out there. The three that I have shown here are the three most common versions, but honestly, there are just countless numbers of ways. I'm going to say at least 100 different types of Agile marketing frameworks and Agile frameworks that are out there. These are the three you're most commonly going to run into: Scrum, Kanban, Scrumban. So Scrum, that is where you have a fixed period of time. Oftentimes it's a 2-week sprint, and everyone has a defined role. There's specific meetings that you have over time. Those are your structured ceremonies, they call that. And everyone's making an upfront sprint commitment. How much work can we commit to during that period? Don't worry, we're going to get into a lot more detail about Scrum in the next couple of slides here. Kanban is much more lightweight. It's all about having a big list, a big chart, and going through, okay, what needs to get done, the to-do list, moving things as they are being done into a doing list, and then moving them to a completed or done list once you're done. It's very visual. It's intended as being a take the work and grab it, and work on it as you can. It doesn't have the same time box restrictions that you'll see in Scrum, which is that 2-week time frame. If you're interested in working with Kanban, you probably are already doing that today. If you just get a piece of paper, you draw 3 columns on it and grab some Post-it notes. One column says to do, and all the things that you need to do in a little task, put those on your to-do list. Then as team members ready to work on that, get them to put their name on it and move it over to doing. And then when they're done, you move it over to done. And this can be done with tools like Trello, which is what we use within AMA Phoenix. It's a great tool to be able to just track, hey, where are we in getting some of this work done? And it's nice and lightweight that you don't need quite as much structure there. Scrumban is a bit of a combination of both. And it's where you might have a little bit of Scrum happening within those Kanban columns, where there's some structure within the loose fitting structure of Kanban, or it can be the other way around. All right, I know I promised you to go into a little bit more detail when it comes to Scrum. Well, before you get into those 4 ceremonies, you first have to fill up your backlog. You need to figure out, okay, if we're going to try and do this Agile thing, this Agile type of project management, how are we going to do that? Well, you need to fill up a backlog, and that's typically your business owner working with the Scrum, your Scrum Master, which is also your project manager oftentimes or usually, with filling out, okay, what are all of the tasks that are available that we need to get done? What's everything we've got to get done? And we put it into a backlog. We build out some user stories. As this type of person, I would like to have this type of content so I could achieve an outcome. And you do this several different times. So it might be, as a web user, I would like some buttons so that I can place an order. It's going to be different depending on exactly what type of project it is. But you've got this whole list that you filled out now. Now you're ready for the team to dive in with planning. You'll go through the backlog and figure out, typically at a 2-week sprint, everyone gets together and says, okay, I think I can complete this amount of work out of that list, that backlog that was created. And everyone commits to trying to complete that amount of work. I mentioned here that those time estimates could be sized even, and that's a little bit more advanced than for what we have time to talk about here today. But just if you've got questions about that, we can talk about at the end, or reach out to me and we can go into more detail. But the great thing is you get a commitment from your team, but they get to go out and do the work themselves. You're not having to follow up on them with the same type of structure you would with a waterfall. That's not to say you're not following up with them, because the next type of meeting you want to have is a daily stand-up. This is really where, as project manager, you're there to help facilitate. You're there to help communicate. You're there to help coordinate, in which you're asking the question, what got done at this meeting? You're asking all of the people there, what have you gotten done so far? What are you doing next? This helps people set in their mind, if they're not sure what they're getting done, well, by the time they get to this meeting, hopefully they have that defined in their mind. And then, are there any issues or roadblocks? This is great for you to be able to cross collaborate while you're there. You're not problem solving, but you just are identifying who can help with these issues if there's a problem. And then you, as the project manager, you can help with making sure that you're overcoming those roadblocks. You're facilitating and removing roadblocks. All right, you've been there. You've gotten 2 weeks worth of work done. What do you do now? You review. This is your work where you're reviewing the work that got done at the end of 2 weeks. See, where are we at? How much got done? And how much do we want to put back into the backlog, things that didn't get done that we want to continue to work on for a future sprint? Retrospective, this is the work on the work. So you're not actually talking about the work that got done here. Rather, you're talking about how you work together as a team and how you can improve. This is very much part of that team building aspect to make sure that you are moving forward as a group. No one's left behind in your team. Your projects aren't being left behind. You're trying to make sure that you're moving forward together. Well, you're all wondering now, I mentioned that term Agile fall earlier. Is he going to come back to that? You bet I am. By Agile, you mean waterfall in sprints? Sure, it could be that. It's where you have waterfall and Agile coming together. And most projects I've worked on that are of any size fall into this category because things oftentimes aren't just A, B, C, D, which is your waterfall type of project. And oftentimes they're not just agile. They're not just trying to update things over and over again. You're not going into a design and making 30 revisions just over and over and over again, but it's a series of these things that you're accomplishing. You may have some work that gets done, and then that leads to some other work that gets done. As you're doing each of these different chunks of work, you're iterating with them. Maybe you're working with a client to make some, I mentioned design changes or content changes. Maybe you have to go into Google Ads and you're making different tweaks and there's some adjustments you need to make in there. And there's some agility, you're continuing to make refinements in that phase. But once that's done, you're moving on to something else. All right. And lastly, before we finish this section here is I want to touch base on some of the differences you'll see. I'm speaking in generalities. There are exceptions to all of these, but in general, there are some differences you'll see between business to consumer or direct to consumer marketing project management versus that business to business project management. When you're talking about the business consumer, direct to consumer, those can sometimes tend to be smaller projects with shorter cycles. Oftentimes, they're taking data, real-time data, and using it much more quickly. So you'll have more sprint-based projects oftentimes in this type of project management where you're trying to move things quickly. And in order to move more quickly, you'll have maybe fewer approvers. Things have been pre-approved, so you're able to act more quickly. And you're really trying to focus on that creative impact. Business to business can sometimes have a longer consideration cycle. Your customers are taking a longer time to figure things out. You may have more cooks in the kitchen trying to provide input. So you're going to have a longer approval cycle, a longer nurturing cycle as your clients are trying to figure out, is this right for me? And you may be included with more of the sales side as well, working with account-based marketing teams to help them build out some of their content. Oftentimes you'll see there's lots of approvers for that content as well. And I'm speaking in generalities here because oftentimes there can be some exceptions in both of these. All right, and that is going to take us to documents and tools. Before I move into documents and tools, I'll just pause for a second. I know I might have rushed a little bit through a couple of these just to make sure we've got time at the end. Are there any questions right now? If not, actually, I do see one question over on the side.
We did have one question. You mentioned Trello. Would you consider that your favorite project management software, or is that just, are there different ones that you like for different reasons?
Oh, there are so many tools out there. Trello is a great tool. And actually, I have a slide that's going to address this specific question in about 3 or 4 slides. But Trello is a good tool. I like it in the way that it is good as a Kanban tool. I mentioned that a bit of that hybrid earlier because you can actually not only use it in the Kanban sense where you can build out a card and move it from things that get done to different columns of doing and eventually get it over to done. But you can also break it out into little smaller mini waterfalls in there with checklists of work that needs to get done sequentially. So it's a really good tool. And we'll touch on Smartsheet in a couple of minutes, but I would say Smartsheet is my favorite. Well, as you have more questions, feel free to drop them into the chat or we'll bring them back up at the end. I'm going to keep moving forward here then. And let's touch base on a couple of these documents that you're going to see that are out there. Key document number 1 is your project charter. This is oftentimes confused with your project plan, your schedule, and it gets mixed up in a lot of different scope documents. I recommend keeping it very simple. And simply, the project charter is there to get you started. It's intended to authorize the start of a project to get work moving forward. It's a high-level kickoff document. High-level stakeholders are involved, and it answers just a few fundamental questions. It's asking you, why are we doing this? What's the vision? What's the high-level objective of the business reason? Why are we doing this? What does success look like? And success, I'm not talking about really detailed KPIs. I'm not talking about getting into the weeds with how many clicks you're getting, how many conversions, how many people, new leads you've gotten. I'm talking real high level, like, are we trying to gain revenue? Are we trying to increase brand awareness? What is that high level expectation you're fulfilling? Who's involved? This is just the high level stakeholders. Who are the sponsors? Who are the client leads, the team leads? You're not going into individual details. If you're talking about a vendor, you might include the vendor's name in here, but you're not putting in the whole vendor team at this point. Are there constraints? This is the high level question of, is there a final deadline? Are there specific high level budget restrictions? We're not going into details here. That is for later. And then high level risks as well. What could go wrong? You want to try and figure that out. If you can, get that figured out. A best practice is always get sign off. If you can get a physical sign off or use a DocuSign, get some type of marker on there from a sponsor, from a stakeholder to say they're officially authorizing you to move forward and that they're agreeing to these high level items up front. One of the reasons I like that is for accountability. That way, if the sponsor, the stakeholder comes back at a later time, if the client comes back at a later time and says, well, we really want to get this thing done, you can say, well, this is what you agreed to. This is what we've committed to completing as part of the project. And you have the opportunity maybe to talk about what the impacts of that are. I prefer a one-page charter. Some people strongly disagree with this. They really like to build it out into a 10, a 20, a 30-page charter, and I generally disagree with that. The reason is I think that level of detail belongs in your project schedule, your scope document, your agreements and contracts that you have with the clients or your vendors that you're working with. The charter is really intended as a kickoff point, a place to say, this is where we're starting. This is the get started point. So the way you do that is with a one-page charter. And I do have at the end here a sample document that I share with you, a template that is I've used personally to be able to get projects started. Depending on your organization, you may not be able to affect this, but to the degree you can, I recommend get started, use a one-page charter, save those details for the other documents. Which is going to bring us to another document that within marketing, you probably see quite a lot, and that is the creative brief. If the charter is your document you're using as your what and why document, what are we doing and why are we doing it? This is your who and how document. This is a short document. Maybe it's just a few pages long. I've seen them much longer, but it's letting you know creatively what are we doing. So you might still have some of those business aspects in there, but you're really trying to get into the meat and potatoes of who's the target audience? Who are we talking to? Why are we talking to them? What do they want to see? When they look at our ad, when they read our copy, when they see our designs, when they really experience our brand, what do we want them to think when they've seen it? What do we want them to feel? How should they walk away? What is that action? How do we want them to act after they've been influenced? What is the voice we're using, the visual aesthetic, brand alignment? We're going to get into some of those specifics as part of this document. And then some assignments, specifically who is going to work on different deliverables, different aspects of those deliverables. This is where you can get into a bit more of that detail. It should be detailed enough to guide decisions. My recommendation, don't make it so prescriptive that it stifles your creativity. The reason you hire marketing teams, the reason you've hired a great copywriter, you've got a great designer, you've got a UX designer, you've got different people on your team, is because they have some expertise they're bringing to the table. Let them express that and give them, that expertise. If you prescribe everything, it doesn't give them a lot of room to be able to surprise you with the great skills and work that they're doing. The third key document I want to bring up that you're going to see very frequently is the project schedule. As a project manager, you live and breathe the project schedule. This is where you are taking the win of different tasks get done. What you see on the screen here, that graphic, that's known as a Gantt chart. And that is where you take different tasks, lay them out sequentially. This is very helpful when you're talking about that waterfall style of project. Agile might be a little different in that you're going to have little Agile pieces swimming around inside these potentially, especially if you're talking Waterfall. But what you see here is different tasks that take week 1, week 2, then it goes to week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7. High level is then broken down into subtasks and maybe even sub-subtasks, depending on how many levels deep you want to go. It's a great tool to be able to look and see what is coming due soon. What are your dependencies? Dependencies are those lines that you see here. And that means this is work that needs to be accomplished before other work can be done. You can do assignments within your project schedule. You can see overlaps, figure out your critical path. And a critical path is all those things that if you change the deadline, if you change the timeline of that work, well, how is that going to impact the overall length of time of your project to get done? And that's what you see in red here. Oftentimes with your project tools, that's where you'll see that show up. So what I've walked through with these are just the 3 key documents. You could be responsible for tens, hundreds, even thousands of different documents across many different projects. But it's really helpful to be able to just understand at a minimum those 3, and then you can iterate and come up with the additional documentation you need. You can always reach out to me if you've got questions or ideas or want some more templates or tools. I can try to help you out with that. All right, so coming back to some of the questions we've got here and some of the things, we'll touch on, I believe we'll touch on Wrike, Trello, Smart Sheets, ClickUp. I could talk to Teamwork as well, Workfront and Asana. So I see all of those in the chat here. So we'll touch on those in just a second. Project managers are oftentimes involved in the question, well, what tool do we use to track this? Maybe it's you yourself, you're actually trying to figure it out. Other times you're making recommendations to your leadership. The things you'll want to ask when you're trying to figure this out, does it match how your team works? If your team is very much about trying to get things done sequentially versus do you need a Gantt chart? Do you need to be able to see things in a Kanban view? And how well do you need that? How much in depth do you need? Are you going to be doing approvals and need to make comments through there? And that actually takes me to number 2, client and stakeholder access. I've worked with some teams where the clients actually go into the project management tool too, and they make their approvals, they make their reviews through that tool. Some project management tools do not allow that. Does it connect to tools you already use? If you're going to be working with your IT team, if you're going to be working with other teams, check to see, is it going to work with them? Is there integration that you need to do with your different tools? Will it track what matters most? Number 5, will your team actually use it? This is a huge challenge. If your team is resistant to working with a particular tool, then they're not going to use that tool. Find the tool that they are actually going to use. If you pick a tool that's just too complicated, they're going to ignore it. And then it's really going to be a waste of budget, waste of time potentially. Can you afford it? Some things are very expensive. Some things are a little bit more inexpensive. And does it meet any of your company requirements? Security is a big one here. Some project management tools are limited because they don't have the same security standards as others. Pick the tool that makes life easier and work better, not the one with the most features. And this is going to get you to a bit of that tool comparison. And my favorite, as I mentioned already, is Smartsheet. I think Smartsheet's a good mid-range type of project management tool. It's super flexible. It has a great interface, I think. There's some automation that's built in there, some great communication tools, ability to automate emails. There's enterprise security that's there. It's scalable. I've used it for really small projects and very, very large projects. It's got great visualization. You can do your Gantt charts. You can do different views in there, a Kanban view. There's a great support team around it as well. I do want to let you know I am not paid for, I've never received $1 from Smartsheet, so this is not an ad. I just want to say that, but I really like Smartsheet. All of these other ones I've worked with in one way or another as well. And I saw Teamwork in there. Teamwork is very similar in a lot of ways to Wrike. So I've used Teamwork as well, Michelle. That's a pretty good one as well. Just going down the list here, Google Sheets, I think that's probably your best bet for a small team. If you don't have any budget, or maybe you're a one-man army, then this is where you're going to not have the same type of budget that you might need for some of these other tools. It's a great starting point when you're just getting started. You can use your Google Sheets to build out your tools. You can do some visualization. I do share a sample Gantt chart that a couple of sample Gantt charts I built out using Google Sheets as a template. So that's something that might be helpful for you. Molly says, Smartsheet is a great tool for independent project managers if your client does not have something to offer you. Excellent, excellent suggestion or thought there. Trello, I mentioned before, that's great for Kanban. You've got Asana, Monday.com, Wrike. These are all excellent tools. Wrike is a really interesting one. I do think it is a really good tool. I might say that's my second favorite, just in terms of the flexibility of it. ClickUp's a good one. I find that because of the way the business there's done, it's one of the cheapest ways to get started with that one. Workfront is a beast. It's very expensive. It's a very comprehensive tool. This is one of those cases where maybe it's too complicated. You might want to really think long and hard before you move forward with that, just because of how much depth is there. And if you're a smaller team, it's probably going to have too many bells and whistles there for you. Jira is another great tool. That one's really good. Scrum and Agile. We've got a couple additional comments here. Someone mentioned Airtable. Airtable is a good one. I've used that previously. I actually used that volunteer for Project Management Institute for Phoenix, and did a couple of projects for them using Airtable. So that's a good one as well. Yep, Workfront does usually need a MarTech team, so a bit of rigidity there. Last note here: avoid Microsoft Project. If anyone out there is thinking about using it or thinking about using it, don't do it. If you're currently using it, get rid of it as soon as possible. It's too complicated for marketing projects, and even for non-project marketing projects, it's just not. It's too complicated to be useful. That's my own opinion there. All right, this is going to dive us into leveling up, and this is where we're going to take some of the theory that we've been talking about and how do we apply that in a way that really allows us to manage our teams and manage up with our leadership. One of my favorite tools is the cycle of good faith. It's a mindset process where we look at coaching and trying to build up our teams. We want to express trust, express honesty to be able to move our teams forward. This is what I find is most helpful for us to get projects done right. If you have a team that is fearful, if you have a team that is concerned about punishment, they're going to be less inclined to be honest if something isn't going right. And then you're going to have things that break and you're not going to know about it until it's too late. Your leaders, if you're not being transparent with them and if they're not being transparent with you, there's going to be missed expectations. Your clients aren't going to get what they want. You're going to have a loss on your investment dollars. All right, so what are the steps here? Because I'm going to walk through this. Assume positive intent. When you walk into a meeting, when you bring people onto your Zoom call, assume positive intent. Anyone that's there, unless they show otherwise, demonstratably, assume that they are there to help you. Maybe you have different ways of getting the goals accomplished, different ways of getting the work done, but you all want the same thing. You all want to move the team forward. You want to move your marketing work forward. Assume positive intent. But have fierce conversations. So that means that if your asset isn't going to be completed on time, you want your team to say, hey, this is not going to get done within this 2-week time period, like we said. You want them to be honest. If you're going to miss a deadline, if the scope, the budget isn't right, if there is some type of obstacle that's coming forward, have those fierce conversations. The team should be honest with you, and likewise, you as the project manager need to be honest with your teams to let them know and set expectations there that there's an issue that we can't avoid this. We have to get this done by X date. Have fierce conversations and let people move forward. Confirm what you need to know when you're having a call and talking to someone. It's always helpful to have a checklist, an agenda, have an understanding of what it is you're trying to accomplish in conversations with them. Clarify expectations when you're in your project meetings, when you're having discussions with your team. People that don't have explicit expectations spelled out to them, you can't be surprised if someone doesn't meet a secret expectation. This is something that is across the board, up and down with your teams. And if you teach your teams that you're working with this, and if you treat it that way yourself, it's another way you can help your management teams as well. Challenge respectfully. This is where you, if you are saying that this isn't going right, there's an issue, focus on the problem, not the person. Somebody is not creating the problem. There's something else that is creating. Maybe that asset isn't quite right. Maybe the Google ad isn't performing as expected. It's not necessarily that person, but it's focus on the problem that you can work on. And then Kaizen, continue to improve continuously. Managing scope creep, this is the yes and technique. If you have someone, especially a manager that comes up to you or a client that says, hey, everything's great. We really love what's happening here. But, it'd be great if we did this completely different thing. And do you think you might be able to slip that in? Well, it wasn't agreed to. So this is a great place to go back to that project charter or some of your documentation, maybe your statement of work, and say, well, we could make this change. There's this change management process for that maybe. But here's the impact. So a yes and. Let them know, who your stakeholder, this is the impact if we do make that change. It's going to cause additional work and some other things might not be able to be completed. Be specific about what that impact is, whether it's a dollar, a time impact, a resource impact. You may need a new statement of work for that even. Try to show your willingness as a project manager to work with your stakeholders, to work with whoever it is that's bringing in that additional scope, that additional work that needs to be done, but also be clear about those downstream impacts. Why do people resist? Well, they might be afraid that things are going to slow down. You're not going to get things done quick enough. Maybe there's some bad past experiences or they're afraid of the unknown. If you think about some of these different aspects, it can be helpful in understanding how you want to respond to them. If you understand, well, maybe people are afraid of slowing down. We're not going to get this done fast enough. Well, you can address that by talking about, well, adding this structure, by doing the project management. It's going to get you where you need to be because you'll have the time to get things structured. Fewer things will go wrong. There's going to be less rework. Maybe you only have 1 or 2 revisions that are necessary instead of having 19 revisions. Bad past experience? Well, that's where having a lighter approach, trying to have open and transparent communications, working to reduce people's burden, that can be helpful, improve their experience as opposed to there being a bad past experience, but acknowledge that if that was a significant issue. And then try to make sure that people aren't overwhelmed. As you're changing processes, as you're building out your project management maturity, do it a little bit at a time. Don't do it all at once. If you're bringing in a new project management tool, have a transition period. Don't do it everything just all at once. Manage up. People are afraid in management of bringing in project management tools, and they're afraid, what if I lose visibility? I'm not going to be able to see this work that's getting done because there's going to be additional steps between me and the work. You can frame it as visibility. You're able to build out dashboards. You're able to build out those Gantt charts, visualizations, things that will make it easier for your manager, for your CMO, for your president, your CEO to see where are we in getting this work done. Emphasize the business return that they're going to get, because you're going to be able to complete more projects. You're going to be able to get more assets, more ads out there. You're going to be able to get more videos done. More creative content will be able to be completed because of these project tools. There's predictability and repeatability because there's processes that are there. Proactive problem solving, it's also going to be able to help you with identifying any issues. I recommend allowing a little bit of failure within your project teams. As a project manager, allow your team to make decisions that might invite a little bit of failure, potentially. Now, what I'm saying here is you don't want things to go off the rails, but people are going to learn to do their work better. They're going to learn to do their work faster, and they're going to see that you trust their decision-making process when you allow them to move forward with the decisions they make. Fail fast, fail often, and only step in if things are going to go very wrong. This is, of course, a generality because there are going to be some exceptions. There may be contractual obligations that you need to follow. But if you think of a leak on a ship, you've got a ship, there's a leak on it. Well, you can trust your team, if it's a small leak, to fix that leak. You don't have to follow up with them. You don't have to babysit them every second of the day, ask for report outs every second of the day. Let them fix the problem themselves, figure out what that issue is. You step in if the leak might sink the ship. This is when you should, as a project manager, stop things and say, all right, we need to all get together right now and have a meeting to work this out. And it could be anything from maybe a reputation risk to maybe a large budgetary issue where your ads are spending like crazy for some reason. You don't know why. Whatever that thing is that's going to sink the ship, then you step in as project manager. But I strongly recommend let your team figure that out. There's a path to loving the process. It's a journey, not a destination. Don't try for perfection. Try to get there over time. That Kaizen process, little bit at a time, and you'll get there before you know it. You can refine your process. Your team's going to build that capability, and you're going to be there as a project manager, a marketing project manager, to make it happen. Love the process. Results will follow. I have some templates that I've built out for you. There's a sample project charter, a sample brief, a couple of those Gantt charts, the cycle of good faith. I strongly recommend, if you can, print out maybe a PDF, put it up at your desk. Keep it with you, maybe a copy on your phone even. It's a great tool. Copy this presentation. This is all going to be sent out here in the next day or two. And I want to say nothing is impossible. You've got this. You are awesome. You are amazing. And thank you. We've got a few minutes here if there are any additional questions. Oh, and let us know what you think.
Yes, Trevor, this is great. Thank you so much. I love your energy and enthusiasm. There was one other question that came through. If you have some technology adverse team members who are not excited about using a project management tool day to day, any recommendations to easing them in or convincing them to use it? I know you said don't just, do it all at once to give them piece by piece, but how, it's easier said than done.
Well, this is one of those places where picking the right tool can be important to start with. So if you want a lightweight project management tool that's easier to use, you can use one of the Kanban boards, for example, where it's as simple as a list of to do, doing, done. If they're really adverse to technology and maybe you're in person, you could even do that with Post-it notes on a wall. I've done that myself. If you have someone that they maybe have a little bit of technological adversity, but they're willing to try some things, start small. Don't start with tracking all of the individual tasks on a day-to-day basis. Maybe track larger tasks on a weekly basis and allow them the grace to be able to do their own tracking of the little pieces that need to get done. So maybe you're not tracking a list of 20 assets that need to be completed. Maybe it's just one high-level task that says, person A designs these assets, and it's up to that person to create their own way of tracking that themselves. As long as they're getting the work done and you're following up with them, it should be up to them then to accomplish that. If they find the structure works well with them, if you do a little bit of change at a time, you may find that they feel more comfortable, and you can add some more structure, some more rigidity as you go. I don't know if that helps answer the question.
It was my question, Trevor. So
That was your question. Well, if you have any other questions, you can drop them into the chat, or I think we're about at time here. So I want to say thank you so much to everyone for taking the time to meet. You've got this. Your team's got this. Marketing project management is going to be so great and help you out. Woo! Thank you to AMA Phoenix for being awesome. Thank you to Taylor for being awesome. And go take on the day. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trevor. You did amazing, and we really appreciate the templates. Sometimes I know for me, just starting is the hardest part. So appreciate you offering those to our attendees. And with that, we'll give you back 1 minute more in your day. So thank you all so much for coming. Hope to see you at a future AMA Phoenix event, and have a great rest of your day.